Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers.
Experience is not about the publisher, it is about us, the authors.
Well, here we are. This is the last day of this 2-week group of discussions about the book. I'm Carl Johnoff. The pen name, again, is Kurt Niemann, and I wrote badge 411. This is my incredibly wonderful wife, Shirley.
Hi.
Who has supported me through all this and has been a driving force in it actually existing in the first place. In any event, I have to say, I have had questions and comments come over the screen over these past 2 weeks that have just been magnificent. It appears that there really are a lot of people who are wondering how this criminal justice system operates and why. Yesterday, I ended by getting into the 3 strikes and you're out kind of deal that exists in some states, where if you've been convicted or you've been in prison 2 times, you just get busted for something else. It doesn't make any difference what, you're just out. It's going to be life. I'm gonna wonder if the person isn't being a danger to the community. I'm wondering if something like that is really appropriate. But that's a whole nother semester of discussion. Right now, excuse me, I want to get into a couple of things. I talk about there's some 80 odd stories in the book. So what I'm going to do, just so you know I'm telling the truth, I'm going to talk about what each of the chapters gets into. Chapter 1 is entitled The Rookie Years. It has 15 stories, including 3 stories with Curly. Who is Curly? Well, Curly is a Phoenix, Arizona police officer. Well, he's retired now, long since retired. Passed away, as a matter of fact. Gosh, time is running out, huh? Anyway, Curly was the police officer who was in my, I'm going to call it a gang unit. We worked the inner city and we worked it in various sections. So I didn't have all the gangs and all the areas. There were several sections, and we were checked out by geographic area. Curley was the person who had been trained on the state budget by the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department regarding gangs. It was the LA Sheriff's Office that did most all the training of people throughout the country on that issue. And Curley was the guy in my unit. We had a parole officer. Me, I was a probation officer. There was an adult probation officer. There's Curley. There was just all kinds of support people out there. And I just had to include him in the book because there's so many things that we did together. Read about it. Chapter 2.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, Ethan Lee comments. Hi, Carl. Question for Carl. Looking back at your stellar career, is there anything you wished you had or had not included in Badge 411?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, there was a whole list of things. Dude, if this book makes me a multimillionaire in sales, I'll write another one. Yeah, there's some stuff that I wish I had written about. However, it's got 80 odd stories. And in this chapter 2, I talk about projects in Vadios. That's the inner city assignment. 18 stories, including 3. And of course, one of our important jobs per the state and per the county and the city was we were to get rid of the gang problems. And that was in the late 1970s. Well, they're still around, aren't they? It's kind of like drug laws. If people don't want to do something, they won't do it. If they do want to do it, you can write laws about it or not. They're going to do it. And are they going to pay? Yeah, some of them will. Some of them won't. Oh, Ethan Lee says, don't forget me when you become a multimillionaire. Hey, I won't, Ethan. I promise.
We'll come visit you.
Chapter 3, Inkies, those status offenders. And I remember talking a few days ago about the people, the young people who don't violate any criminal laws, but can still be subject to the legal system through the juvenile court because they are unmanageable in the home. And boy, we can make a list of reasons why that would happen. And are they really unmanageable? Yeah, sometimes not. Well, read the book. Chapter 4, some highlights from the field. Yeah, just being out in the streets, 13 stories involved, including, of course, Curley. I can remember we did a house visit. And as a matter of fact, Curley was one of his Phoenix PD partners because this guy was considered to be really dangerous.
Yeah.
Hey, Ben, good afternoon.
Thank you.
This was one of those, and you got to read the book to really get into this. This was one of those deals where we made the house call. We stopped. We parked alongside the street, and we came out, and there were these 2 huge vicious sounding and vicious looking guard dogs on chains who were waiting for us. And we approached them and they went over to one tree and sat down. They did, much to the surprise and chagrin of the dog's owners. In any event, chapter 5, jails and detention, 12 stories in that. Carla Welch says, what's the most memorable experience as a probation officer? Well, I wrote about that and created the title of the original publication and got me in trouble because the original title of this book was The Powder Blue Negligee. And people were thinking that was a porn story. So that's really memorable. Other memorable stories.
I don't
Oh,
know.
so many of them are. If you get into what I'm writing. Well, if you get into the book, you'll discover that there is an awful lot more than just the stuff that you see on TV or you see in the movies about the criminal justice system. There's far more to it. Lily Schultz says, "What's the most dangerous incident you encountered in your job?" Well, potentially that 2 a.m. call where I was told by the assistant chief to report down to the main detention center because there's a riot going on and there were fires and there were injuries. And when I got there, there was a state riot squad out there, just all kinds of armed police and whatnot. And I was told to just go on in and do something about it. And because sometimes my ego overrides my intelligence, I agreed to just walk in there. And I walked in there and the riot stopped.
Due to respect for Carl.
They called me the captain. And,
They called him Captain Compassion.
oh,
The kids
man.
did. The kids called him Captain Compassion.
Oh man, see, we could talk about this stuff forever. It's just anyway, jails and detention. There's 12 stories about that. And I include in it a page-long deal about private prisons. Boy, this is one of my biases. Now, you didn't think that I had any biases, right? Well, private prisons certainly is one. Remember, I was talking a lot about prison overpopulation and how 1 out of every 5 prisoner in this country is in prison simply on a drug conviction, as opposed to just immediately hurting people like assault, homicide, and whatnot, or burglaries or auto thefts or whatever, simply possession of what they call dangerous drugs. And the population is so great, prison population is so great that there seem to be some folks in the southern United States who decided, hey, we have an idea. Let's develop private prisons and contract with states to take on their prisoners, and that'll relieve the problem. Well, they did, and throughout the southern and a lot of the southwestern states and whatnot, there are private prisons. We in Arizona have, I think, 4, maybe more private prisons owned and operated by private corporations and contracted with the state. And if you look into it, you'll discover that, number one, they don't have the same kind of training that our state prison correction officers have. They aren't paid as much. And there are problems. And yeah, it's gone as far as homicide. I could talk forever about that. But
Anyway, you have a new question.
Julie says, what advice can you share to young probation officers of today? I would say get as much information as you possibly can on what your job is going to be and what the expectations are, and make decisions around when you check with your own private, your own local outfits. Are those expectations realistic or not? Get as much education in this system as you possibly can. Read my book.
Yeah.
Eva Stinson says, hi, it's day 12. I'm glad to be here. Carl, do you see yourself publishing another book in the near future? Well, I may. I have to say that I'm prone not to unless there's a real demand for it. But I will say at the same time that anybody, and I mean anybody, police, probation, parole, corrections, that wants to get into the criminal justice system, I promise you, you will well profit by experiencing my experiences before you get caught in traps yourselves. Chapter 6 goes into homes away from homes. Now I'm talking about residential treatment centers, State Department of Corrections, prisons, adult and juvenile, just where do you place a kid that has committed enough crimes that they need to be out of the home, they need to be out of the community? Do you have the budget for it? Boy, this budget is a big deal every time. And that includes boot camps. And in just a little bit, I'm going to want to talk a little bit more about that. Chapter 7, the academy. Yep, I wrote and was the coordinator for the first juvenile detention officers academy in my state. And boy, it was just a wonderful experience. I had a lot of good colleagues who helped me through it, helped me write it. Melinda Knight, was there any single regret in my 32 years as a probation officer? Yeah, for the most part, no regrets. But my main regret has to do with why I left. I could have stayed for probably a few more years. However, if you've been listening to me rattle on many times in the past, you know that I'm a 7th degree black in 3 martial arts. And I have a pretty good idea. I've been doing this for like 30 or 40 years or more. And I have a pretty good idea about self-defense and restraints. And one of the things I really emphasized, especially in juvenile, is how you prevent violence, particularly physical violence, from happening, and what you do in terms of restraints. There are a number of private corporations. Who is my hero? Lily wants to know who's my hero as a probation officer. I got to tell you that there was a man who was our chief for a number of years named Ernesto Garcia. Ernie Garcia was somebody that most everybody feared because, man, he absolutely had a positive way to go, and you better agree. And there's some rebellion about it. And again, I write a little bit about this in my book, but Ernie took a really semi-useful organization and created a well-trained organization, the juvenile probation department. He made it really work. He made it really professional, and he stayed with us for, I don't know, about 20 odd years. And I'm so glad he did. Where in the heck was I at? Talking about the
You're on chapter 8.
Restraints. There are a number of companies in this country that say, well, we have got the very kind of prevention and physical restraint program you need. Yeah, we have some black belts who will tell you, yeah, this is how to go, and on and on and on and on and on. And the state decided on a particular organization, and as a consequence, all the county probation departments, as the county juvenile departments, bought into it. And what I have to say is that I don't know of a restraint program or of a physical restraint on somebody who is mindlessly violent at the time that will absolutely guarantee that there's no way in the world that anybody can possibly be injured. Well, the organization my department was tied into insisted that, no, these guys really know their stuff and you have to teach this. Well, in my professional opinion, as a master in martial arts, that is not a flawless approach. That approach was not flawless. I taught around it. quite a bit for a number of years, but ultimately I was given an ultimatum. No, you will teach what these people want you to teach, or you're out of here. And I decided, okay, in all good conscience, uh, my ethical position is that is not a guaranteed flawless approach to restraint of a violent individual. And it was proven to me so many times in actual situations in detention, in the detention facilities. And yet the administration stayed with it. And I said, it's time for me to retire. So, yeah. That is the one thing I regret, is there's no way in the world that I could convince my administration that that was not a be-all and end-all program. Elaine Butler says, was there a moment when you were offered a bribe or do something against your values? Well, I've talked about that a number of times. That's why the original publishing of this book was called The Powder Blue Negligee, is because when I knocked on the door at 7:30 in the morning, per an appointment already made, the door opened and there she was, gorgeous and big smile on her face and wearing a see-through powder blue negligee. Now, even I could tell that there might be an agenda there. And bigger than life there was, because here comes the husband running and screaming, get your hands off my wife. I'm out of here. I'm gone.
Fortunately, he didn't even step in the door.
Yeah. And boy, my supervisor and the chief just had a blast over it. They thought it was funny because I
To get the full thing, you got to read the book.
Yeah, you got to read the book. Okay. Well, let me talk a little bit about approaches to juvenile behavior. Specifically, at least during the time that I was a probation officer, there was a thing going around called tough love. And I'm away from it long enough now that I don't know if that has finally died or not. But tough love on the base seemed like a good idea. Hey, you know what? There's a time when you got to set down the rules. You got to cause the kid to realize that it needs to be this way, do or die kind of thing. And if I keep my own emotion to myself and I insist on maintaining that tough love, the kid will change. Sometimes, not often. And one of the offshoots of tough love was boot camps. Now, I went through boot camp through the courtesy of my mother and a juvenile court judge. I went through boot camp 3 weeks after my 17th birthday in sunny San Diego with the Marine Corps. And in a lot of ways, because of things that were happening internationally, the Marine Corps trained me well and saved my life and caused me to have a whole new set of attitudes. Will that work on young teenagers and preteens and whatnot? Well, why do you think it will? Why do you think boot camp, you go see, what the heck was the name of the one that was just really very, very much like the Marine Corps. Anyway.
In Utah?
Hmm?
In Utah?
No.
I don't know.
No, I'm talking about a movie. But
a movie.
Yeah. In any event, there were some organizations, there may still be, that say, yeah, we'll give your kid a 1-day boot camp or a 2 or 3 day or 1 week boot camp, and that kid will come out of there and goose stepping just like a German soldier kind of thing, totally obedient and whatnot. No, doesn't happen like that. And come on, what are you going to expect?
Thank you, John.
John said, oh, glad to see me go live again. Hey, I'm glad to go live anytime, any place I can anymore. let me give you a little bit, and you'll find this in the book as well. By the time I wrote the book, there were so many privately owned and operated boot camps and state owned and operated boot camps throughout the country that were closed by courts. Just some examples. In Texas, a boy died of heat stroke in a one-day boot camp. How do you get that done like that? In Maryland, a governor found 29 cases of excessive force, child abuse, assault. In Georgia, there was a boot camp drill instructor who was indicted for sexually molesting 6 of the boys in the platoon. In South Dakota, a 220-pound girl died. She had been made to run, and according to my memory, according to the what I read, she had to run several miles, and she got heat stroke, hypothermia, died. Louisiana, Illinois, Virginia, Georgia. Folks, if you're thinking about sending your youngster to a boot camp, please think again, is my advice. That's, gee, I do have some biases, don't I?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, what influences a kid in the kid's development? Well, parents, schools or school teachers, churches, the people in them, and the clerics in them, your neighbors. What's the nature of your neighborhood? What are the various behaviors that make up your neighborhood? Employment people, your bosses. The kids. Back in the ancient world, when it was okay for juveniles to have a newspaper delivery route, we had adults who would show us the way, how to sell, how to collect money, how to do all these things. They were influences. Everybody in that child's life, in one way or another, is going to influence that child. How does the child create the way, the belief systems and the attitudes and the behaviors that it has? It's a consequence. There was a president's wife some years ago that said it takes a village. Well, I wasn't really necessarily happy with that. But yeah, it really does. Because when that kid is of an age where he's just not in your house with you 24/7, but in school and doing other kinds of things, they're getting all kinds of influences. How many people want their kids to be a member of a street gang? Well, in some cases, that is kind of an expectation at home, and I write about this one gang lord who was a way older adult, but the man in charge of the neighborhood juvenile gangs, as I think about it, that person, it was just amazing. Whenever I would visit that home, he would be sitting in sometimes a wheelchair, sometimes a chair from the dining room table, but he'd always had an oxygen tank connected to him. And he was always breathing oxygen through a mask. And he was a chain smoker. He would, God's truth, he would light up and take off the mask, Inhale some, blow it out, put the mask back on, breathe again, and so it would go on and on and on. Any visit I made at that home, because there was a son and daughter, both of whom were on probation to me, any visit I made, he was chain smoking.
You're into they're giving you a few more minutes today, but you're into
Yeah.
that. You've got 4 minutes.
Okay. It is still up to the individual, regardless his background or her background. Believe me, girl delinquents are really a challenge. It doesn't make any difference if you're a man or a woman probation officer. I promise you, girl delinquents, for a lot of reasons, are a real challenge all by themselves. It's still up to the individual person to decide what they're going to do, what they're not going to do. What is the goal? What is the expected outcome? What are the possible consequences? These are the questions that I used to really like to cause the people on my caseload to think about whenever they're going to steal a car, smoke some dope, beat somebody up. There is apparently in a place in a neighboring county here where the income is really high. The people are really wealthy, and there is some gang problems, teenage gang problems coming from apparently those families that's making the news every day anymore. And among the weapons being used is brass knuckles. And there's been some injuries. As a matter of fact, there is at least one homicide coming out of that. How can these incredibly wealthy kids, incredibly well-educated kids make these bad decisions? Well, let me invite you to think about how many different influences could create that kind of decision making. I could just go on endlessly.
You've got 2 minutes, but
Yeah,
of your overtime.
yeah, I'm over time, and believe me, again, drugs, they wouldn't be bought and used if some people did not want to buy and use them. Just like alcohol, and just like the history of the 18th Amendment to the Constitution, prohibition, otherwise known as the Volstead Act. If people did not want to, and the majority of them, continue to drink, they wouldn't have bought the stuff. They wouldn't have been taking a chance on violating the law.
1 minute, dear. So,
and with that, I'm gonna go. I am so glad so many of you kept track on me over the last 2 weeks. Thank you very much.
thank you for your wonderful questions.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yes. Some of which would have taken a whole semester of work to hopefully satisfactorily answer. Just remember, just because it is the law, just because somebody says that I'm in charge and here's what you're going to do, that doesn't mean everybody's going to do it. Thank you. And